Thank you. And in my previous call, I focused on the amendments in the name of Mr. Robertson. On this call, I'd like to focus on the bill, most of which we're quite supportive of. I think, and there are a few specific points. I think there'll be amusement amongst members on this side, senior members on this side, at clause 8 of the bill, where there's a change from which to that. The thing that most members will not understand is that the former Prime Minister would have seen this as a bit of a direct attack. I think it's fair to say that that Helen Clark had a view. I do numeracy, I do the numbers. I don't pretend to be an English language expert, but I think it's fair to say that Helen had a view of which was not shared by the parliamentary drafters at all times, and I think this might be a case of them getting their revenge and doing a reversal. I do have a question for the Minister on clause 15, and that is with the reports, the ERO reports for private schools, and my question there is, why are they given to the chief executive and managers? I think there might be a mistake in here, because the chief executive is the manager of a school, and my question is whether I can ask her, through her, the officials, to look very carefully, and whether she means the trustees or the governors of the school rather than the managers, because I think what we're doing here is by saying the school's principal or other chief executive and managers, we have got the same class of person twice, when obviously if there is an adverse ERO report that reflects on the principal, it is very important that it goes to the trustees, and my understanding is that reports go to trustees of state schools, and therefore my question is, why is the difference? Now, I'll plead guilty now. I would have looked at this clause 8 or 10 times over the passage of the bill at the Select Committee as I was looking at submissions that were going through, and it's my view, and I haven't picked this up before, so I'll take some responsibility as a Select Committee member for it, but I think if the Minister can get some advice on it, I think it wouldn't be a big thing if in fact I am right and we have got it wrong. Coming out of the Select Committee, we could do a pretty quick amendment in order to correct the position. I may be wrong. Managers may be a class of people in private schools that we don't have in other schools, but I've met quite recently with the Independent Schools Association, and they, from what I can tell, I don't know well I think 3 schools in Auckland that are the for-profit schools, but generally the private schools have a fairly traditional board. Sometimes they have a proprietors board as well as a trustees board in the way that integrated schools do, but they always have an equivalent of a board of trustees whose role it is to appoint the principal and to run the school and so forth. And I am slightly stretching this, Mr. Chairman, in order for the advice to come to the Minister. I'll move on and, if necessary, come back to that particular point. I think there is a degree of unanimity around the vets question. While my colleague Mr. Robertson has brought in a number of amendments to the Minister's bill which look back to the legislation of the Labour Party, I in fact want to make it clear that I prefer this Minister's bill in the area of vets, especially at the point that we've got to on the question of, Mr. Chairman, as amended by the Select Committee. I think we've got to a point of compromise there where there's a degree of unanimity around it, and I think we've got this bill is now better, both than the one that the Labour Party introduced, but it is also, Mr. Chairman, it is better than the one that as was introduced. I think we've worked together to get this right. Mr Chairman.
Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Mr Chairman, on the question of the limited statutory managers, I think this again was a very interesting case of a select committee working in a way under MMP, and remembering that I haven't been a member of a select committee for a decade, and I think MMP has evolved. It was very interesting to see the select committee develop alliances around particular issues, sometimes coming from quite different perspectives, in order to get to a particular position. And on this particular clause 22 and also clause 23, get to the point where an alliance formed between the Green Party Act and the Labour Party, which outvoted the government on the select committee, and I understand the National Party have now adopted the position which they opposed in the select committee. And I think it's fair to say that even within the Labour Party, the reasons for getting to the position we did varied. My view, as someone who's had some experience as a minister dealing with these matters, is that it is very important to, not on a frequent basis, but where necessary, pick up the phone and talk to the person who's responsible for what is effectively the statutory management, whether it's a commissioner or limited statutory management of a school. And the way that it was introduced, you would have been ringing Ernst & Young or Price Waterhouse. Well, that's all very well, but as we know, even as the Minister of Commerce knows, who I think has responsibility for matters to do with statutory management of companies, there is always a liquidator or receiver named, even if they are what is effectively a front person for a company, for an accounting company. And that is the practice. And I think it is important, one, to have the contact, and secondly, in order to have someone who is held responsible. And that is the position which Roger Douglas came to, and the reason that he was supportive of this. Now, I think it's fair to say that the Green Party saw the ability to have statutory managers as a privatisation. Now, I think that, and it might have been, and I might say one or two of my colleagues were slightly suspicious in that area. I think I've been around long enough to know that if you really wanted to privatise, probably not the route that you'd take. It's probably not the route that you'd take. But having said that, they were supportive of the Labour Party position, and we have now the then spokesperson for the Greens and member of the Select Committee, Materia Ture, in the House, and we got to the point where, for a wide range of reasons, we got the balance of opinion of the Select Committee to the point where it is supportive of this particular clause, and I think that is something which is useful. I think the Select Committee also did well on the question of the splitting of the establishment boards. It's my view that this area can be fraught, and especially when an establishment board is developing a number of schools, as is happening, for example, in the botany area at the moment, where there is a lot of new development. I think it's fair to say that both the Minister and I have had more experience with closing schools than opening them. But you know that when you're opening a school, it's something that's going to last for a long time, and it's important to get it right at the beginning. And I think leaving the Minister with flexibility around how you split schools off, and frankly, even if you do, because I think one of the questions that we need to keep on thinking about is in those new areas where we've generally got quite innovative schools. We've got schools which are different, they're testing different shapes, different models, different approaches to education. I think sometimes we should think about the governance models a bit more than we have. I, for example, probably would have preferred, both in the Albany and the botany situation, to keep one board for those schools and see